Live. I think someone's been messing around with all my technology over Christmas. I think it's the classic, isn't it? Oh, that's why. That's why I couldn't get back into LinkedIn. It's just decided to do an update. Happy New Year, everybody. It is 2023. I have no idea where 2022 went or how we got to this so quickly. But today, I'm very pleased to be talking live with Becs Bate. We're talking about all sorts of wonderful things around social media tips and essentially how to build your social media so that it actually generates leads and generate sales. So we are, fingers crossed, live on my Facebook page, Paula at Tailoring. We should be live on my LinkedIn profile. And we're going live on my YouTube channel as well. So you might be watching us in any of those exciting places. Fingers crossed the technology works, but who knows? Anyway, we will crack on by finding out a little bit about Becs. So Becs, tell us a bit about you, about how you got to where you are now and why or how you became a social media guru.
Oh, thanks, Paula. Well, today I'm going to be talking about 3 top tips to help you increase your content visibility on social media for 2023. But why am I talking about social media? Well, basically, I am a social media trainer and consultant. So my business is over 4.5 years old now. I can't believe it. And I've trained over 600 businesses from all different sectors, all different sizes, from one-man bands right up to sort of blue chip organizations. So I specialize in helping people get the most out of their social media for the least amount of time. So really targeted and having a proper strategy in place. But yeah, I've not always been into social media. I was a bit of a technophobe, I'll be honest. If you go back 10 years ago, I used to work for Manchester City Council, and I used to manage the Greater Manchester Energy Advice Service there, and I had a marketing team that did all this social media stuff for me. So I'd be just like, they'd be like, oh, we're going on Twitter, Bex. We're going on Twitter. Should we write a tweet? And I was like, oh, what's a tweet? Sorry. So again, 10 years ago, social media was definitely not my thing. I was an environmental consultant. I was running a lot of environmental projects and campaigns across Greater Manchester. And unfortunately, due to public sector cuts, I had to make a lot of my team redeploy them into different services because the 10 local authorities that we supported just didn't have that funding to support them. So I actually was going to set up my own business in property when I was approached by a company called Nomad Games, which is a games development company. They make board games into digital formats. And they're like, oh, Bex, we're here, we're here, you're leaving. Do you want to come and help us out for 6 months? And it was basically going in, helping them as the marketing manager. And I helped them with their social media. So I needed to get my head around social media and learn how it worked. And actually, yeah, and over the 3 years that I worked with Nomad Games, completely transformed their social media approach, which was very salesy, which was very all about the business and the products. Completely transformed it so that we were much more about the company and much more about who we were talking to, the ideal customer, which is what I'm going to be talking about today. So transformed their approach and ultimately grew their social media to over 20,000 followers. Nice. But they were really engaged, left us amazing reviews, bought loads of our products, and we became really ambassadors of the company. So really, it's some of the tips I'm going to be sharing today. So 4.5 years ago, I left. Unfortunately, Mum was diagnosed with cancer and needed a major surgery, and I was juggling a young family and my parents who don't live locally. So I decided to set up Social Media Executive. And that's why we're here
that's
today.
Where we are now.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's dive straight in with the ultimate question of what do you think are the most important? In fact, I'm going to backtrack myself before I go there, because I feel like this time of year you're seeing left, right, and centre visibility challenges and things like that. And I think one of the big things I see for lots of people is this thing about we've got to be visible. I've got to be visible. Everyone says I've got to be more visible. And I think there'll be a million people right now thinking my New Year's resolution is to be more visible. I'm not sure people understand why or what that means or how to make it effective. So what do you think are the biggest things that people need to consider in 2023 to actually make their social media effective?
Yeah, and that's a really good question. How do we be more visible? So I would actually twist that on its head and ask you, and anyone that's watching, actually, how many business inquiries did you get last year through your social media directly? Because you're absolutely right. People go, you need to be out there, you need to be on TikTok, you need to be on Twitter, you need to be on, you need to be visible. And it's absolutely, completely overwhelming for someone like me, who is a social media expert, who is very confident about creating content. But for me to be more visible is actually not necessarily very productive. So actually what we're looking about is increasing our visibility to a target audience, maybe just on one platform, and keeping it really simple.
Do you know, it's so interesting you say that, Bex, because I think that's one of those classic things we all know, but actually everyone's terrified of. The thought of being in less places, because everyone says that will make you less visible. But as you say, being in one place, but being strongly visible to the right people consistently is far more effective than being a bit visible to not that many people, but in a million places.
Yeah, and you can't do it as a small business because you dilute your messages, you're diluting your message. Being more visible, if you're not visible to the right people, is completely pointless.
Yeah, totally. So where would people then take that question? Because I think your question was brilliant. How many leads did you generate through each of your social media channels last year? It's a brilliant question.
So the reason I asked that was because people just think, you know, let's get content out there, let's get content out there, let's get content out there. Oh, have I gone viral? Have I done this? Have I done that? Well, actually, what we need to think about is there's 3 areas that you can do to really simply improve the content you're already creating without putting more pressure on yourselves.
Yeah.
Look at what you're currently creating, what you did last year, and how you can improve it. I'm not asking you to do any more. So, you know, basically, if you do it better, you can potentially do less. So the first top tip I've got then is drop the sales pitch. Because we're all desperate. Yeah, we're all desperate to sell our stuff, aren't we? We're all really desperate to sell our stuff on social media. And that desperation can come across sometimes because we're going to buy this, I've got 20% off this, buy that, buy that.
Yeah.
But actually, if you have a think about why people are on social media, they're not actually looking to buy. They Google that. That's what your website's for. That's where you do the sell. They're on social media to be informed, be entertained, to find interesting information, to see what friends and family are doing, to find out what people in their industry are doing. They're there to get information in one form or other. They're not there to be sold to. So it's a completely different sales strategy. So we have to not give it the hard sell.
Okay. Can I just check that with you though? Because are you saying you shouldn't sell at all on social media, or are you saying do it sparingly and maybe strategically?
So so when I say hard sell, what I mean is not every single post selling. So I generally say 20% of your posts should be about selling because that's why we're on social media. And then 80% of your posts should be about warming it up. So one big tip, what we all tend to do is a lot of people are still in that mindset of trying to drive traffic from their social media to their website. Okay, that's fabulous if you've got a marketing budget and you're paying for advertising. It's not fabulous if you're doing it organically. What that means, if you're just doing it for free, you're doing free posts. Because if you put a link in a post on any social media platform, those that allow it, if you put a link in a post, you're basically encouraging those people off social media. So they're encouraging them away from LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, whatever platform you're on. And the little robots in the background are scanning your post before it even goes live. And they'll go, oh, there's a link. Becs has put a link on. Well, we're only going to send it to... Exactly. We're only put this post in front of 5% of the followers instead of maybe 8%. Okay. So one is sort of drop that link. So we've got to think of different strategies for how we get business inquiries on our social media.
So I think what you're almost saying is sell much more gently. So don't get rid of it completely, because actually there are some people who never sell at all, and they perhaps need to increase that a little bit, because of course it's still important, isn't it, that people actually understand what it is you do and how much it costs and how they can buy it. But like you say, just do that sparingly and make sure that that's just a small portion of your content, and the rest of it is entertaining and connecting. Yeah, I like that.
Exactly. And
You
also,
don't-
I always go back to it's Adam Mossery, who was the head of Facebook feed back in 2018, and he announced. I mean, this is 2018, so this is 5 years ago. He announced, there's a little quote here. Basically, he announced that Facebook was just measuring signals on content. So those signals were things like any actions people take on posts, and therefore they were basically prioritizing posts that sparked conversation.
Yeah.
So if you create a post that's maybe got lots of likes and comments, but those comments then, the people having a conversation under your post,
Yeah.
then basically Facebook was going to prioritize those. Okay.
They're looking for evidence that people are enjoying your content, essentially, aren't they? They
Yeah.
see that, then you're going to be popular.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. Yeah.
Facebook launched this, and then LinkedIn followed suit closely after.
Yeah.
So what we're trying to do is drop that sales pitch, because the trouble with putting a link in a post with a sales pitch is people might find it quite interesting,
Yeah.
but they're just going to then click on that link. It's taking them straight off. So whether the Facebook, LinkedIn robots like it or not, you're still taking them away. So they're not going to comment on that post.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's going to reduce that reach, because the more people that comment on your post, the more that social media platform will share it into more people's newsfeed.
There you go. You've just given me a quick thought there, actually, Becs. Talking about people commenting on posts. I can see we've got a few people watching on Facebook, and I can see we've got a few people over here on LinkedIn. So if you're there and you could just say a quick hello in the comments, that would be great. It's really nice to actually understand who's watching. And if you've got any questions as we go, please feel free to pile those into the comments, and I will more than happily grill Becs with all your juiciest questions. Okay, so tip number 1 is drop the sales pitch. Do that gently and make sure that everything else is absolutely the key of your content. Let's go straight in with tip number 2, Becs.
So tip number two then is get into the heads of your customer. Heads. Hopefully, customer only has one head, but yeah, get into the head of your customer. You may have hopefully more than one customer, so they will have more than one head between them. But yeah, we've got to think about, rather than thinking about us as a business, what we want to sell, we need to think about, why is our customer on social media and what do they want to see? Okay, so again, don't worry about posts going viral. I have loads of companies I can count quite a few companies have come to me and said, Becs, can you teach us how to create viral posts?
Yeah.
And I always push back and go, well, your viral posts mean that they're going far and wide. So actually, we need to be focusing more on making sure that post goes to more people of your target market, who your ideal customer is. And the way to do that is to understand what they need and what they might want to see, and the language that they speak as well. Because we always fall into our acronyms. You'll have heard me today talking about robots. Well, actually, and what robots are in technical terms is the algorithms, basically. But a lot of people don't understand what that is. So I always call them robots.
The techie bits.
Yeah. So drop that techie stuff.
Yeah.
Really have a think about what your customers are talking about.
It's a really good point as well, because we are very often not aware of our own jargon, because we know our business, our products or services inside out. There's often jargon within it which we don't recognize as jargon. So like you say, almost making that step back and really thinking about, what does my customer understand? What's their language? What's their level of kind of knowledge and conversation? It is really key. Yeah.
That's it. And just so your social media posts should be written in their language that's really easy to understand. And I always think about, pretend you're talking to a 12-year-old. In fact, no, 12-year-olds are quite intelligent these days. Pretend you're talking to an 8-year-old, because I find information that I'm not really, don't understand that well or not clear of. If it's written really simply, I like to read it and understand it.
Yeah, that's it, isn't it?
So pretend you're talking to a child.
Yeah.
And use really simple language.
So I want to talk to you about what you said there about getting inside your customers' heads, because this is a conversation I have very often with clients when we talk about things like your ideal client avatar, or your customer persona. And I find that a lot of people feel that's all a bit overwhelming, and they think it's all a bit kind of unnecessary. And do I really need to know whether my clients drink red wine or white wine, and whether they've got a Labrador or a cockapoo? But I think the thing that you said about understanding what's going on inside their head is the really, really key thing. So could you expand on that a little bit for us? And maybe can you give us a bit of guidance for somebody that struggles with that thing about how do I understand what's going on in their head and how do I talk in their words?
Yeah, so it's that age-old phrase, isn't it, of putting yourselves in someone else's shoes. So I have a very, very simple sort of sheet that I work with my clients where we map out, right, okay, well, how old is your ideal client? You know, what are they interested in? And you're right, it's one of the hardest things to do. I had a new client this morning and we were doing it, and it's really quite difficult. But I've got loads of clients I could work with. So I always think, one, focus on the client you most likely want to work with, be it you enjoy working with them or they make you the most amount of money. Okay. Because at the end of the day, we want to get the best return on investment in LinkedIn, Facebook, whatever. We want to make the most amount of money.
It's interesting what you said there, because I would often say, think about who you get the best results for and who you enjoy working with. So we're quite similar on that approach.
Yeah. So think about that. And you might actually want to base it on an existing customer you have know and love. And sometimes that's the easiest way to do it as a starting point. Have a think about what they do. Have a think about where they hang out. Have a think about what they're interested in. Have a think about your interests. Because if you're genuinely interested in something, I play squash, for example. If I'm genuinely interested in playing squash, I'm likely to connect with someone else who might be interested in squash.
Yeah.
You know, and it's about thinking about those conversations you have in common that could just stripe up that conversation, because it's about building trust. People trust you if they think you understand them, and also if they know you.
Yeah. So it's, I think one of the things you said there is about it's connecting with people, isn't it? And you don't do that by trying to prove that you know more, or that you're a fabulous expert, or that you've got something that they're desperate for. You actually do it by being on their level and just being normal and friendly and approachable, and somebody that they actually want to have a social conversation with online.
That's it. It's about building trust, isn't it? Building that connection, and then it's thinking about, how can you get more of yourself out there on social media as well?
Yeah.
Particularly LinkedIn. I think LinkedIn's really, really important in that you've got your personal profile. So a lot of it's driven with LinkedIn. A lot of it's driven with your personal profile. And so it's about putting you out there, whether you like it or not. Photos of you, videos of you, because that builds trust. People buy from people.
Totally, absolutely. So I've just noticed I was looking at the wrong bit of my screen, and I hadn't realised that we have had a couple of hellos. So we've had Roland said hello on LinkedIn, and we've had Kate that said hello to both of us. And we've got you. This is social media being the most effective ever. Sally Thompson has already said, do you do one-to-one training?
Yes, I do. Is that me?
I think so. She's trying so many things, but I don't get anywhere, and I've got so many groups, and I'm feeling a failure. Sally, connect with both myself and Becs afterwards, and we'll both have a chinwag with you, and we can help you get a direction and feel more clarity in your business for sure.
Yeah, because I do one-to-one training, group workshops a lot. So I'd be more than happy to help.
Wonderful. Okay, have we covered off your tip number 2 there, Becs?
I think so. Yeah, I think it is building that trust and really getting into the heads of your customer. You just ultimately think about, what do you think they want to see? What are their challenges on social media? How can you help them? That's what they're after. They're after help from you.
Brilliant.
So the main thing is, I think, is don't overthink it, I suppose.
So are we on tip number 3?
This is my 3rd tip, really, which follows on, because sometimes people can go, oh, right, my customer, what do...
I think we are all absolutely guilty of this, overthinking.
Overthinking it. Procrastinate so much that you actually don't put content out there, because you're just thinking, well, that's not quite perfect enough, or I'm not sure if that's worded right, or is this what my customer would like?
And scintillating, amazing quality.
Amazing. Is this too salesy? Maybe I shouldn't put it on there. My advice to you is don't overthink it. And I can tell you, and I'll give you a couple of examples actually, because sometimes my posts that I overthink the most that I put more effort in, that I think this is really going to resonate with my ideal client.
Bombs, doesn't it?
Bombs, yeah. And I'll give you an example. So I created a Happy New Year post this year, and I did a beautiful image in Canva. For those that don't know Canva, it's a graphic design tool. You can create little videos very simply. So I created this amazing little graphic, really. It was very simple. And I thought, oh, this is really quite cute. It looks great. And I put some nice words on there. Probably took me a good 15, 20 minutes to create. And this is on Facebook. And I just had to look at the stats before I did the live stream, as an example. And I think it reached 191 people on my Facebook page. So I went in the newsfeed of 191 people in my newsfeed. And that's
nice.
It's, I have 1.4 thousand followers on my Facebook page.
Yeah.
So, it really didn't do very well.
I think I spent about 15 minutes trying to put a Christmas hat on my photo in Canva before Christmas.
Yeah.
I was very pleased with the results, though.
Yeah.
But yeah, unnecessary.
Compared to a post where I spent a little bit more time. It's literally just a photo I'd got in the photos, popped it out there, and it was a Happy Christmas post on Facebook. So it literally took me that 2 minutes to do.
I know. Yeah.
Threw it out, and this reached 366 people.
There you go. I think you're so right, though, that very often, and obviously you wouldn't go with a strategy of saying never think about it at all and just post what comes to mind, because at that stage you'll be just all over the place. But you're right that sometimes it just is those more kind of relaxed, casual posts, isn't it? I know when I started really focusing on LinkedIn, God, I dread to say, I think it's about 5 years ago now, and I was committing to posting on there every day, and I was starting to see a bit, decent traction. And I had one evening where it got to about 9:30. I was really tired. I hadn't posted. I was so determined to post, and I posted what I said was, what's the first? Oh, I might even have said something about LinkedIn. I'd really love to hear your opinions. What's the first word that springs to mind when you hear sales? And it got something like 25,000 views and a stack of engagement. And it was my least thought out post in that whole, time of trying to be really strategic on LinkedIn. So like you say, sometimes just it's relaxing, isn't it? And just being natural and just saying what you think.
Yeah, think about how you talk to customers face to face. Think about some of the questions that your customers ask you.
Yeah.
When you're having that one-to-one conversation, and answer those questions on your LinkedIn. Obviously, don't mention the customer's name, but answer those questions on your LinkedIn, your Facebook, your Twitter thing, and do content like that. And just don't overthink it. I mean, I work with clients who haven't posted for weeks. Because I haven't got time. And it's like, well, you have got time. You just think you've not got time because they just think, right, I've got to do my social media posts. I need an hour. And it's like, no, you don't. You just need to have a bit of a plan, actually. Have a really simple plan.
Yeah.
And so that you've got to do a post about this and a post about that. And then you can infiltrate it with those simple posts that are a bit more off the cuff. Because I think that's one of the downfalls with social media content is people don't have a basic plan. And I'm not talking a 12-page plan of exactly what you're going to post every day, what time and when. I'm really thinking about a really simple bullet-pointed template, which I develop. I've got a digital online toolkit where I work with clients that people can buy. And it's really simple. This is the plan, a vague overview of what we're going to be posting out each month. And these are the main objectives we need to achieve this month on our social media.
Yeah.
And these are times.
That's a really interesting one, because I think a lot of people do this month after month without objectives. So actually they don't even stop and ask that question about, is this working? Is it being effective? So I've got two interesting comments, actually. So Roland on LinkedIn says, Facebook and Instagram are failing to display to all followers now. The reach has got quite poor. Many of my friends have closed their Instagram accounts, and I have just left mine to sit there. Now, you talked before, Becs, about some specific statistics, I'm tongue twisting now, on some of your posts. So can you give us a little bit of guidance in terms of what you should expect around reach? And are there ways, should we be focusing on expanding that reach or encouraging engagement, which actually should be our better metric?
Really good question, Roland. And actually, You're absolutely right about Instagram, particularly since Facebook has taken over Instagram over the last few years. There is massive, significant decrease in Instagram reach, particularly on business posts, and I've noticed it quite dramatically, I think, over the last 2 years. But Facebook, never put all your posts in all your followers' news feeds. Never did. It's too competitive, unless you joined Facebook when it first started back in 2014. But so it never did. So what we've got to think about is, how do we increase engagement? Because I'll give you I'll give you a great example. It was a couple of years ago now, actually. I saw a couple of posts on LinkedIn. They'd both done really well. They'd gone viral. So I took both posts and I edited them slightly. Obviously, rewrote them for myself with the same principles in there. And I managed to reach over 70,000 people on that post. So it was a bit of a clickbait, really. It was just sort of, you know, who are my connections? I'm doing a little experiment. Can you just give me a like and a comment so that I know you've seen this post? It's an experiment. While you're there, introduce yourself.
Yeah.
So I think I got over 280 comments on that post. It reached over 70,000 people. Reached third connections. It went far and wide. Brilliant. Everyone was like, "That's amazing, Becs. Well, look at that post. That's amazing." And I was like, well, I'm doing this as an example for my training and I use it all the time. Yeah. Guess how many business inquiries I got from that?
42.
Zero.
Yeah.
Zero. Okay. So rather than thinking about how many people you're reaching, I just gave you an example that actually I only reached a vaguely good post over Christmas. I reached over 300 people out of my 1,400 contacts. But I did a similar post. Well, I didn't do a similar post. I did another post on LinkedIn a couple of weeks after I'd done that viral post, and I reached 1,400 people on LinkedIn. Guess how many business inquiries I got? So this one was more of a, oh, look, I've just launched this new online Facebook Facebook course. You know, you can do it in bite-sized chunks, do it when you like, in your own time. I'm so excited. You know, this is now going live, and I just did a little video of me pointing at the screen.
Yeah.
It only reached 1,400, tiny amount compared to the 70,000 I'd reached a couple of weeks previously. But how many business inquiries do you think I got from that post?
That sounds more promising.
Yeah, I got 3 business inquiries from that post. Okay.
I think 3 business inquiries from one post is
a good ratio. So this is why it goes back to my tip about the ideal client. You know, if you are talking to the right people, it doesn't matter if your post reaches 10 people or 100 people.
Yeah.
You are still going to get business from it.
Absolutely. And I think there's also there's a really big key there that a lot of people miss. And it does depend what kind of business you're in. But if you are in a business that's, I mean, in fact, I think it happens in lots of places. But for me, the people that buy are generally the ones that actually don't engage. I call them the lurkers, because they don't want to show their hand, essentially, but they're watching what you post. They are kind of checking you out. They're seeing if they connect with you, if they like you, if they trust you. And then the first time they'll actually actively comment or get in touch with you, they're all ready to buy from you. But a lot of people are thinking, I just need all these engagement stats. But actually, the people that are going to buy from you are the ones that deliberately don't engage. So just because you're not getting massive stats, it doesn't actually mean it's not working.
Yeah. And actually, to give you some sort of more statistics on LinkedIn, 80% of people who are active on LinkedIn never like, never comment, never share, and certainly never post. Yeah. Most of my business inquiries come from people I've never even heard of.
Yeah, interesting. Kate's also put a comment in, and I know we talked about this yesterday. It was really interesting. Kate has put a poll in the last few days in LinkedIn. And polls are one of those classic things that get a bit of flack, aren't they? You know, just typical engagement post and lazy posting, what have you. And Kate's has got huge engagement and given her enormous insight into her audience and what they think, and where there are some skill gaps that could be really useful for her. So it just goes to show that, you know, don't listen to the people that talk about certain types of posts. If you've got a bit of a strategy and a reason to why you're posting, all kind of posts will work.
That's it. And that's why planning is essential. We all hate planning. I hate planning, but
Love
yeah.
planning.
Do you? Well,
Yeah.
good, because that's you're brilliant at planning, and you help your clients plan. Which,
You know,
yeah,
the key part of planning is the implementation bit. Sometimes
yeah, somebody. Yeah.
So Bex, we are out of time. I did have a feeling this one would absolutely fly by today. But if we've got people watching who think I could really do with a bit more help, or I love the idea of this whole plan thing, how can Bex help me a little bit more? What are the options for people to get some more help from you?
So you can connect with me on LinkedIn or Facebook. So on LinkedIn, I'm Becs Bate. So connect with me, drop me a message. You can find me there. You can also find me on Facebook. So my business is Social Media Executive Limited. So you'll find me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. I'm on most of them. I wouldn't recommend to my clients they're on most of them. But I also have my website. You can connect with me on my website. But I have a planning session webinar coming up next Friday, which is just for an hour, because we like to keep things short and simple when it comes to social media. And you'll come away from that session with a plan for the year for your social media. You also get a free copy of my digital online toolkit, which is 25 quid. And the webinar's only 25 quid as well. So it's great value. And I just really want to help you simply get a really simple plan in place for 2023 so that you can manage your social media content a little bit more confidently, really, and have a bit more of a plan in place.
Sounds really good. Fabulous. Thank you, Bex. I have popped the link in there, and I can see on my magic screen that link has gone through to the Facebook page and to YouTube. This magic system doesn't actually comment automatically on LinkedIn, so I will pop in there in a few minutes when we're finished and put that link in as well. And obviously, Bex, if you can go in and add the links to your different social profiles and things like that, and people can come and connect with you. And we've got a final little comment on Facebook. Georgina Green has tagged a friend in to say how incredibly useful all your tips today have been. So massive thank you to everybody for watching. I've seen we've had a few people on Facebook and a few people on LinkedIn, and who knows whatever happens on YouTube. But thank you so much for your brilliant tips today, Bex. And I will be back on the same platforms next Friday talking to, I'm having a blonde moment, Tracy Robertson, about the nitty gritty of accounts, keeping your accounts super simple, but also some tips if you still need to get your tax returns in. And we're talking about things like making tax digital. So the type of things that you might think are uber boring, but actually make a massive difference to your confidence and your sanity when you've got these things right about your business. So huge thank you to everybody for watching. Massive thank you again to Bex for joining me today. Follow those links and get registered on that webinar, because that sounds fab. And yeah, have a happy new year to everybody, one and all.
Well, thanks for inviting me, Paula. And if anyone's got any questions who's watching this on the catch up, just pop them in the comments and I'll happily come back and answer them at a later time.
Fabulous. Thanks. Thank you very much, Bex. We will see you all very soon. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.